So, John, it's hot.
Oh,
It's really hot here.
so I've heard. I've heard many of my friends in the UK are melting across the entire country. How are you holding up?
I mean, it's better now. Today has been better than the previous 2 days. I did tell you this already, but yesterday I spent 2 hours watching a graduation in Brighton, and that might be the hottest I've ever been in my life.
Was it indoors or outdoors?
It was indoors.
Yeah, but indoors is maybe worse because you don't have a breeze or anything.
Right, it's indoors. There's maybe, I don't know, we were trying to count, maybe 1,000 people there, maybe a bit more than that. And you're just watching somebody say names every 5 to 10 seconds.
Yeah, I did this not long ago.
And everyone needs their moment, of course they do, but like when you're sort of 100 names in, you're like, oh my god, this has got to end soon. And my friend who was graduating, he was like, I think it literally must have been like the second or third person to last. So I was just sort of waiting for it to end, and then like you couldn't get out straight away because there was like a drinks reception thing, and it was very difficult to leave the building. So that was a fun thing to do on the hottest day of the year.
Boy, I bet. I had a similar situation. I guess it was at the end of May or beginning of June when my son graduated from high school, and it wasn't that hot outside, but it was because it was threatening to rain. They had it indoors in an auditorium, and he graduated with like 700 kids, and he's near the end of the alphabet, having a last name that starts with a V, and we were sitting up in these bleachers kind of towards the ceiling of this room, and boy, by the time I left, I just felt like I was sitting there just sweating the whole time. That was really, that's all I did. And it's like you go home and you feel like you need to take a shower and just drink as much water as you possibly can.
Oh yeah, and I got up in the morning knowing I had to go to this, and I was getting a train about 11 o'clock in the morning, and I thought, right, I'm not going to shower until 10:30. I'm going to shower the last possible minute and then just leave the house. And I thought, well, at least if we get on the train, it'll be air conditioned. No. I end up with one of the trains that I have to assume is probably 15, maybe 20 years old. It still has the automatic doors, but the windows were just manual windows. There's no aircon on it. Turns out there's no toilets on this train either, which was just mind blowing. I didn't even know that was still
torture.
A thing. Right, and I sit on this train and I'm like, oh my god, I've got to sit here for an hour. Like
you're giving me flashbacks to my old commuter train days, because I used to. I mean, they had air conditioning, but once in a while they would break, and then you're in like these metal tubes, basically baking in the sun, because the trains obviously aren't for the most part. I think in most places they're not going through wooded areas. They're mostly out in the open and baking in the hot sun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the one saving grace was it wasn't particularly busy, but like because of where I live. And like Brighton, is a seaside town, but then Portsmouth is a seaside town, and then if you live Southampton, which is sort of the next nearest big city, there's a seaside town the opposite direction. So there's not a lot of people going down to Brighton from Portsmouth for the beach. So thankfully it was a quiet train, because I thought if I've got to sit next to people on this is going to be even worse.
Wow. It's been pretty amazing watching the heat. I mean, it's all across Europe, really. I mean, I know Portugal and Spain and France and Northern Italy have all had really, really hot weather too.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I think our record was like 40.3 degrees or something, which is, that is obscene for the UK.
Right.
I mean, that is... I wasn't in that heat. I mean, Brighton, I think, was about 33 or 34. I can't, that extra sort of 6 degrees really makes a difference, and I'm very glad that I was able to avoid it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's even, sorry, even Ireland was pretty hot, because I know my son was in Dublin. He's actually living in Cork right now, but he was up in Dublin, and Dublin was having a bit of a heat wave. It wasn't as bad as it was in places like London, I don't think, but still very hot for Dublin as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's and they're saying, oh yeah, this could happen every 2 to 3 years. Oh, good. I look forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like people don't realize that it's fine if you live somewhere that's like used to this kind of weather. Like I'm living now that I'm in North Carolina. It's hot here in the summer. It really is super hot in July and August, but they're ready for it. They're equipped for it. I mean, every place is really well air conditioned and insulated, and it's not like a lot of England, which doesn't really have air conditioning except in places like hotels and shops and things, as I understand it, right?
Yeah, I mean, even it's hit and miss, even with hotels. To be honest,
Yeah.
like you've got to go out of your way to look for one that's got air conditioning. But
yeah, that's true. When I was there for Mike Hurley's wedding in 2018, we got a hotel with air conditioning, and not everybody who we saw there had it, and it was very hot in 2018 too. So yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, this does happen, fairly regularly. I think you'll remember. I think it would have been 2 years before Mike's wedding was when I graduated, and you were tweeting things to get them up on the big screen.
Oh, right.
And that was the hottest day of the year, and that was sweltering. Like this is a very common thing. The problem is we're beating the records every year now, which it's really worrying.
Right. No, that's the thing, and it has become like more frequent because it seems like every couple of years you've got some kind of major heat wave in the UK, and I guess they have to do something to deal with it, I suppose, because it's dangerous if people don't have a way to keep cool. I mean, I know there was a time when we lived in Chicago where they had an unexpected heat wave and a bunch of people died just because they didn't have ways to get out of the heat.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're in a block of flats and things like that, we don't have any aircon, and a lot of our these big sort of tower blocks have like one or two windows in these flats. Like they are. I mean, as you say, they're really dangerous.
Yeah, they just never cool down because they just kind of like heats up and then doesn't have a chance to cool down at night.
I've been trying to cool my house down today, and I still can't quite get my office to a reasonable temperature.
Wow.
So, but yeah, it's probably enough of the weather. That's probably the most British we've both ever been.
I know. How about that?
Spoken for 5 minutes about the weather.
But before we recorded, I guess not long after we recorded last time, I sent you a tweet I found of someone who was selling pizza that had pickles and ranch dressing on it. What did you think of that?
That sounds just absolutely disgusting.
It was pickle. It was basically pizza crust with a ranch dressing sauce, I guess, presumably cheese on it, and pickles, dill pickles.
I mean, I'm not a fan of pickles at all.
Oh, I like pickles. I like a good pickle, Rob. You know what they have in the South? You know what I'm loving now that I'm down here? They have deep fried pickles.
Oh, that does sound. I mean, anything deep fried sounds
It's
good.
true. You deep fry it and it's good. I mean, deep fried pickles, you get a good crunchy, breading on the outside of those. You dip them in various sauces. They can be quite good. They can be done quite poorly. Like if you're I used to try to get them once in a while in the Midwest, and nobody in the Midwest knows how to make deep fried pickles, but they know how to make them down here. A lot of the barbecue joints have them. The other thing from down here that's good that I think you'd like are hush puppies, which are round balls of cornmeal, kind of like cornbread, basically, but deep fried. And those are also very good with some sort of dipping sauce, something spicy. It's a good side for your barbecue. So those are a couple things I've been enjoying in the South so far.
Yeah, well, I mean, speaking of food, I've been making good use of my pizza oven the last few weeks.
Oh, I forgot that you had a pizza oven. That's fantastic.
Yeah, we bought it. I think we bought it in December. It would have been November because it was the Black Friday sale.
Right.
They were doing 20% off. So we ordered all the bits you need for not just the pizza oven, but like the pizza peels and like the bag thing for it and all of that nonsense.
Oh yeah,
we've used it.
Lots of accessories for those things.
Yeah, we've used it like 3 or 4 times in the last few weeks, and like the pizzas are getting better. Like, my dough is getting better. I actually accidentally left the dough out all day while I was at work the other day, just in the kitchen. I was supposed to have put it in the fridge when I left for work, and I just completely forgot. That dough turned out really good.
Oh,
so
interesting.
Maybe I'm not putting it in the fridge next time. I'm just going to leave it out for 6-8 hours.
That sounds good. Yeah, since we're in an apartment, we don't have one of those. But I have always had my eye on them because I've thought that might be kind of fun to do. Maybe when we buy a place down here, maybe we'll get a pizza oven, and then we can trade pizza oven tips on Ruminate.
Yeah. So I mean, I've got a list of different dough recipes to try and different ways to prove the dough and all of this kind of stuff. I want to try a few different things because what I'm struggling with is making a very big pizza. A lot of the pizzas I'm making are fairly small, which is fine. I just make a few of them.
Sure.
But the pizza oven, in theory, I should be able to make a 12-inch pizza. So, but if you can't get the dough quite right, it's very difficult to sort of stretch it out that far without ripping it.
Right,
So,
right.
So I want to try a few different recipes and see how I can get on. But it's not really a bad thing to practice. Oh no, I'll have loads of pizzas. Like, it's not really something to complain about.
No, that sounds good. That sounds very good. I have tried. I have made pizzas on our gas powered grill back in the day when we lived in our old house. And that actually worked pretty well, but it was a very messy process. And if it stuck at all to the grates on the grill, you could have a real disaster on your hands where bits of your pizza were falling through and burning up and all that. But
well, it's funny you say that, actually, because when I said I left the dough out, it was in a bowl, and I'd put it on top of my toaster, or what you'd call a slot toaster, top loading toaster. And all the dough had raised out and was like dribbling down the bowl, and a bunch of it was in my toaster, and I had to scrape it out of there and like run the toaster to burn the little bits off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that wasn't what I was expecting, but the dough was good, so I'm not complaining too much.
You filled your toaster with dough. That's a good one. Wow.
Yeah.
So we should talk video games for a little bit, Rob. I revealed on Mac Stories Unwind that I got a new TV. I don't know if you heard, but I have an LG C2 55-inch OLED TV.
Ooh, very nice.
Yeah, 4K, and I've got the Xbox Series X and PS5 connected to it. And, during the move-in, haven't had a ton of time to play games, but I started Horizon Zero Dawn. I had Forbidden West. I started from scratch. Because I thought, you know what, I really kind of want to see what this, the opening scenes and what this whole world looks like from the get-go in 4K. And boy, that game really shines on that system with that screen. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean that the first game was kind of the same. You kind of looked at it and like, wow, this is amazing. But yeah, seeing it, the new one, sort of like say 4K, that you've got no loading screens, you've got HDR. It's like it just looks incredible. It really is an amazing looking game.
Yeah, it really is. So I've just been kind of sampling through a few of the games. I was playing some of the Hot Wheels game that we've talked about before, which is still a really great game. I haven't bought any of the DLC or anything like that, but I still like dropping into that game once in a while. It's a good game for just playing for short amounts of time.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean it's a nice. I don't think I've really played a good sort of fun racing game like that. It's pretty much since Mario Kart. Like, there's always these games that sort of attempt to be good, and there was a Sonic one on the 360 that sort of came close. There was two Sonic games on the 360, and one of them was particularly good. But yeah, Hot Wheels is just sort of, they really perfected it. I mean, I'm certainly not giving them the money for their DLC packages because they're really expensive.
Yeah, they really are, and they're pretty aggressive about pushing them too. But I mean, I guess I get it. But I'm perfectly content so far with what's in the game because it's a game that I enjoy, but it's not one that I play super frequently. So I don't mind just kind of moving around and sampling through the different cars that are available with the base package and the various courses that are already available. It's been totally fine that way for me, but it's not. Again, it's just not like one of those. I won't sit down and play that game for 2 or 3 hours. I'll sit down and maybe play for like 30 minutes or something.
Yeah, definitely. But the reviews for Stray have come out. This is the cyberpunk cat game, I think is the only way to describe it.
Yeah. You play as a cat, and you are kind of going through a kind of like a Hong Kong themed, a lot of neon, I guess, right? It's kind of a post-apocalyptic city, a lot of neon. I read that it was modeled after Hong Kong to a degree. It looks really good. It's from Annapurna, and the visuals are fantastic. I will tell you, Rob, I did get this game, and I'll tell you how I got it. I was looking, and I saw, first of all, let me just say, this game, I don't know, the release of this game was a little odd to me. It was like there were not reviews very far in advance of this one. And then it just kind of showed, I don't know, maybe it was me. Maybe it was the way I was coming across this news. But I found it just kind of popped into existence without a lot of warning in advance. But in any event, I was looking and I saw, it's going to be part of PS Plus Premium. I thought, interesting. So I went and looked, and I still have some time on a PS Plus, the old PS Plus subscription remaining, and so I just upped to the PS Plus Premium because it was $40, and the game is, I forget if the game's 30 or 50 or what, but in any event, the price was close enough to the price of the game, and I wanted to get the game anyway, that I thought, I will just use this. I will just upgrade to this subscription and have it until I think sometime late next spring or something, and see how Sony does with it. Right now, I think PS Plus Premium is a pretty weak lineup for the most part, but now they have Stray, and they have 1 million Assassin's Creed games coming, I guess, too.
Yeah, I did see that it was on PS Plus Plus. Let's call it that.
Okay, Super Plus.
The second tier or whatever. And I kind of looked, and it almost feels like they're trying to confuse people into picking something they don't need or don't. And as you say, it doesn't seem like the game selection is that great.
No, it's not.
I might have another look because I do want to play Stray, but I've also heard it's a fairly short game. So
it is, yeah. I think.
Maybe I don't want to do what I usually do, which is wait for a physical copy, because a physical copy I think it costs me like 30 quid or something. So
yeah, and I definitely would not have sprung for the full like $120 that this subscription costs. But since it was pretty close to the cost of the game, I thought, I'll experiment and see what Sony's able to do over the next year. But it is, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, there are a handful of good games. I think I will play an Assassin's Creed game or two, probably. There's at least enough there to make it worth my extra $40. But unless they really step it up, I don't really see extending that beyond next spring.
No, definitely not. Like my PS Plus, my normal one, actually expired the other day, like a couple of weeks ago. I didn't even realise. And I was looking, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to pay for the normal one. That's the one I've been using. I'm not, but as you say, I can still jump on there and upgrade it if I decide to anyway. But I don't think I'm gonna. I'm not in a massive rush to try it out. It's no Game Pass, is it? Let's be honest.
No, it isn't, and they've kind of said it's not going to be because they don't believe in making these games, day and date releases with the subscription service. At least not to the degree that Xbox does. I mean, obviously, Stray was day and date, but they aren't intent. I think Sony's made it pretty clear they don't intend to do that with all of their Sony Studios games, like Xbox is doing with its games. The thing about Xbox though is they announced not that long ago all these different games that were coming to the Xbox, but it's been a long time since there's been a big exclusive on Game Pass. It's been, I think, they said a lot of these games were coming in 2022. I guess they're all going to come at the holiday season at this point because it's been pretty quiet.
Yeah, definitely. It's and it feels like Stray feels a bit like it was with Bugsnax, where the game was sort of ready at the right time, so they made a deal to make sure it was ready for that. Because Bugsnax was another one of these ones that was free on PlayStation Plus for PS5 members. It was it feels like more than anything, it's like the timing worked out, and it's not like a massive game. So imagine, paying whatever they pay was probably worth it for them.
Yeah, probably. Did you see that Apple Arcade has a new section for games that are leaving the service, and it's got 15 games in it? And there was a little bit of there's some reports about this because I guess Touch Arcade reported on it first, and then it got picked up by places like The Verge. And I thought about writing about it, but I'm just kind of keeping my eye on it for now. But I saw that, let's see, who did I see? I saw some people talking about this. It's interesting. It appears that the developers have 3-year deals, and then Apple has an option to renew them, and they decided not to renew some of these games. And most of them, I guess, are going to be available as paid games now on the regular App Store. So it's not like they're going away. Not clear what that means for people who may have downloaded these games and have some sort of save data, but hopefully there's a way to migrate that.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, what's interesting to me too is I started getting curious about it because I looked at a couple of these games that were leaving, ones I really hadn't heard of. There was one from Square Enix, and I hadn't heard of it, but obviously I know Square Enix pretty well. So I looked to see how this game had performed, and I was looking at the App Store page, and I saw that it had like 11 reviews. I was like, wow, that is not a lot. So I got that piqued my curiosity. I went and I thought, okay, I want to look at an arcade game that has that's been hyped a lot and considered a really good game, and see how it has done on iOS versus the Mac. And I went and looked at What the Golf, which is a very good game, and it had
very very popular game,
very popular, very popular.
Mm-hmm.
So on the Mac App Store, that arcade game has something on the order of around 50 reviews. I looked on iOS, and it's like 23,000 reviews. Now, reviews are not a great proxy for popularity necessarily, because, for instance, developers can reset them when they do an update.
Mm-hmm.
However, I did look, and this game had been updated simultaneously 3 weeks ago across all platforms, and didn't appear as though it had. I mean, maybe they had reset on the Mac, but not on iOS. It's possible, but I looked at several games like that, and it seems like nobody's gaming on the Mac is where I'm getting at.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, even when you said this, I was like, oh yeah, Apple Arcade's on the Mac. Like, it just doesn't even cross my mind that that's the thing that I can do.
Yeah, so it is, and it's there, and I knew that it would obviously be much more popular on iOS. I mean, there's just so many more iPhones, but 50 versus 20,000, I was kind of shocked at the magnitude of that difference.
Yeah, I mean, that is a huge, especially because you're already paying for it. You're paying your,
right.
$10 a month or Premiere or whatever the Apple One or whatever it's called. Like, so you've already got it. It's not like a cost thing.
No, because if you're no matter how you subscribe to Arcade, if you've got it on iOS, you've already got it on the Mac for no additional cost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is interesting. I'm not sure. I mean, like I say, I kind of forgot about it.
Yeah.
So I guess, and as you said, I don't think people want a game on the Mac necessarily. I imagine it's probably more popular on like Apple TV and stuff like that.
I've had Mac gaming on my mind recently, Rob. I've been thinking about Mac gaming a lot. I don't know what it is.
Don't.
It's one of those things where I feel like you get to this point where it's the conventional wisdom that gaming on the Mac is terrible, and therefore nobody's ever paying attention. Then all of a sudden, maybe something will turn around. And so I've been waiting for it to turn around. And I thought Metal 3 might be that, because that was announced at WWDC. There's all kinds of new APIs for fast loading of assets and other things like that should be good for game development. But then again, Metal, I mean, the developers have to develop for Metal, which is not, that's something that's Apple only. It's not like they can develop for that and use the same code on the PC or wherever else they put.
No.
So I'm still very skeptical about Mac gaming, but I'm perpetually intrigued by where Apple's trying to take this. I have kind of decided, I think, to my mind, the problem is not a technical one. I think the problem with games on the Mac is in part, especially when it comes to something like Arcade, something that's curated by Apple, I think it's a matter of taste. I just don't think that games are, I feel like they should maybe buy Devolver Digital or Annapurna. They should get some people who are producing and publishing these great smaller titles. Mm-hmm. And it's not to say that there aren't good games on Apple Arcade. There's just like a whole bunch of them that are very much like, I don't know, C tier games, B, C tier.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, there's nothing that...
They're just unremarkable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd completely agree. I think you're right. I think it is, when people sort of say mobile games when they say it in a derogatory way, I don't think everybody is necessarily saying, oh, it's just mobile games, it's not worth it, but there's definitely not that same level of the sheer scale of the games that you kind of get on consoles or a PC game and that kind of thing. It's definitely a subset, and then of course you there are some incredible games on iOS and stuff like that, but then when you sort of get to Apple Arcade, which is the games that Apple could get, whether it was through buying them or whatever, it's really not the same thing at all.
No, and it feels like there are still a lot of really good games on iOS that aren't on arcade. It feels like the most inventive and unique games are not part of arcade. That's just not something that developers are doing. And so it's this kind of weird samey thing on arcade. And when it comes to the Mac in particular, I feel like they're trying to translate mobile games onto a desktop in a way that just makes the games feel, it just makes them feel more mobile in a way, like more shallow in a sense, when they've been translated to a powerful computer. And there are too many of them that are mobile translations onto a desktop instead of desktop experiences. I don't think like games scale from mobile to desktop to TV in the same way that productivity apps do, for instance.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm always knocking Apple Arcade and gaming on the Mac or gaming on on Apple devices, but I'm also perpetually optimistic that someday they'll crack the code and figure it out. But I'm not sure it's really Apple's problem to solve. Maybe Apple Arcade's just not the right approach, and the regular App Store and better curation of the App Store is really what they should be focused on.
Yeah, maybe. You could be on something there, but I know you will think deeply about this for many months to come, I imagine.
I will, and I'll write something about it at some point. I don't know. We'll see. They I don't know. Maybe they've got something up their sleeves. You never know. I'm keeping an eye on it, so I'll report back when I know more.
Yeah, definitely. Well, look, I am going to have to stop recording because I am about to melt,
okay.
I think.
All right, sounds good.
It's seemingly 25 minutes or so is the limit in this temperature right now.
All right, that's good to know. We will be back in a couple of weeks. Hopefully Robb will not be melting in 2 weeks, and then he'll make it to a fortnight from now. So
absolutely.
I'll talk to you soon, Robb.
Speak to you later.